Good afternoon. Now then, a while ago I spoke about, so obviously we've spoken before about this event I've been to for 3 times now called Treehouse Festival. And by the time you see this, you'll have seen the video or the footage from this year's Treehouse Festival. Big thank you to Adam and the Treehouse Festival team for allowing us to film a bit of that and tell more people about what's involved with that project, which is always good fun to be part of. Anyway, so what I said was obviously I've been to, 3 of these now and done different making projects as part of that. So this is just a little bit of an overview of some of the things I've made in previous events. So some of you who've been following for a long time may remember from a couple of years ago, I posted a little bit back then as well. Anyway, so here's the first thing. So this is obviously a wooden spoon. So I think this is actually the first thing I made the first year that I went, which was still during COVID. And so basically humble little spoon, but the way that we made it was really interesting. So that was actually carved with an axe. So the basic shape was generated using a sharp axe, and then a little bit of finishing off, and then the actual the bowl part was made with a special scooping knife. But I was actually quite pleased with that. I've never made a spoon before, but again, it's just this whole, I guess, concept of if you couldn't just go to the shop and buy a spoon, how on earth would you actually make a spoon? So I thought that was really interesting. So that was one of the first things I made. The first thing I made with the blacksmiths was actually a full-sized fire poker with a twist on it. But that particular piece is still with Hannah, so Hannah's got a fire. We don't have a fire here at the moment, so I left that with Hannah. I don't have it here, but what I do have is what I made last year, which is this. So as you can probably guess, it's a little bit unusual, but it's a corkscrew, and it does actually work. I did use it to open a bottle of wine, which is where I got the idea to request kind of make a corkscrew. It's a little bit shorter than I intended because I wasn't aware that when you're working the metal, when it's hot, as you make it thinner, you do need to dip the thin end and cool it a little bit, or it just kind of disintegrates and goes into the ether. So it's a bit shorter than we intended, but it did work. It did get the cork out, so that's my little corkscrew. The glass blower was not there this year. Apparently he's retired now, but he was here the first couple of years, and that was actually my second attempt to do a little bit of glass blowing. So it's like a little bauble. So so broadly, the glass is still hot when you make the shape, so you physically do blow out the hot glass to make the bulb shape. But then it starts off with this kind of an open tube on the top, and if you do that while it's still hot and then you pop it into some coloured liquid, it'll draw up the liquid into the bulb and you end up with rather nice decoration. So that was really fun to make. I'll be honest, I'm quite asthmatic, so I'm honestly not the best person to successfully blow glass, but it was really fun trying anyway, really enjoyable. And then there's the early work on green woodworking skills. So we were shown how to make these. So again, if you couldn't just go and buy a tent peg, how would you make one? So this is how. So look at that. So you've got the place to attach a rope to, sharp pointy end, and rounded off top to hammer. So there you go. A homemade tent peg. what else did we do? Oh, this was really fun. So it was only there the first year, unfortunately, but very talented chap called John was showing us how to make a Flint Knife cutting tool. So this is really, really traditional technique. So this is a little bit rough and ready, but only a first attempt. Obviously, you can see it's got a nice sharp edge on it. So if you're quite experienced, you can get a really, really smooth edge on that and nice and sharp. And that would have been the traditional way to make cutting blades and things like axes and just cutting tools before stainless steel, metal and so on. So that was really fun learning how to do that. What else could I show you? Oh yeah, so did some drop spindle spinning. And this was a homemade version of a spindle. So this is a European style spindle, and I have actually used that to spin some sheep fleece for some wool. So it's not got anything on it at the moment, so it's flopping around a bit. But you've got again a point there to hold the spun wool when you're working with it, and then normally you twist the wool around the base to make the ball of wool, so that it's not still on there, but I did generate this particular ball of wool by that sort of process. So that's hand spun with a drop spindle, starting with raw fleece, which was quite fun to do, but it is quite time consuming. And then I did invest in, this is a different style of drop spindle, but similar ideas. So this one, the weight's at the top, which I still find a little bit odd. I feel like the weight should be at the bottom, but anyway, it does work. So that's another kind of spindle. And I did more hand spun wool on this. The downside with hand spinning is it's extremely slow. So as I say, I managed this after a few weeks of effort, and this is just a sample that of hand spun wool that I've incorporated into a little bit crochet. So that was a little bit of wool that I spun by hand and then crocheted, but it was quite time consuming to get much wool to spin to work into any garment or anything more substantial. And then the second time I went along, the ladies let me have a go on the spinning wheel. So I had some wool that I brought with me that I'd already washed that still needed carding, so they helped me to card all the wool. I had like a machine carder, which was great, and had to go on the spinning wheel. And lo and behold, within 1 hour I was able to generate my first ever spinning wheel spun ball of wool. Anyway, so I was quite excited by this, and it was after that I decided to try and source a second-hand spinning wheel, but I'm on a budget, so I couldn't spend too much, and I managed to find the one that I'm still in the process of trying to restore. If you've seen that other video by now, or I can maybe include a link to it. So yeah, spinning wheel spinning was very exciting, so I enjoyed doing that. Still on the theme of the wool, the other thing I learned on the second year was a process called, went to a workshop on rough knitting. It's like, what on earth is rough knitting? So basically, when Neil was wardening over in West Wales, I went to the Welsh Wool Museum. That's a lot of W's, but anyway. So I went to the West Wales Welsh Wool Museum, and I got all these lovely colours of beautiful Welsh wool, which was actually used for weaving rather than knitting or other things. So it was the weaving ends. So I picked up a big bag of these. I wasn't sure what to do with them, and then they were talking in the rough knitting about taking different strands and different colours and weaving them to, weaving the colours together but incorporating them into a knitting project. So I was quite excited by this idea, and I thought, I'll give it a go. And I was able to make this. So this is a shawl made with wool scraps, and it's lovely and warm because it is pure wool, and I rather like the colour combinations. I had a lot of fun making that, and then just did the silk backing just to hide the knotted off ends at the back. And yeah, so I've been super pleased with that. It's been used a lot. It's been worn all through last winter, and going from scraps that would have been thrown away to something I think quite pretty and useful. So sort of really pleased with how that turned out. And I've got some more wool ends, so I might be doing some more of that as and when I get time. So that was all good fun. What's left on my table that I'm not showing, so I've shown you quite a few things now on my little table here that I've been working through. I've not shown you the paper, so we'll go to the paper next, I think. So this, a plain piece of handmade paper. So you can make paper pulp with different things, everything from horse manure to shredded cotton to shredded paper, and anything that you can find in nature as well. So this is just a fairly plain piece of plain paper. So I haven't got all my paper anymore because some of it's been turned into cards by Barbara. And then this year I had, so I'm just trying to pick one up, I had taken some homegrown dried lavender from our garden. So this paper is incorporating some of the lavender from our garden, and it smells lovely. And you've also got, if you can see in there, we've got incorporated some different leaves and seeds and wildflowers, as well as the lavender incorporated in the paper, so you've got kind of an interesting texture. So that was one that I did. And then there's another one. This is this one, I think it's browner because it incorporated some brown, like cardboard type paper. So it's like another different pattern there. So we just picked up some nice looking pieces from the ground outside, from the gardens outside. So that's another one. And then we did a couple more. So it's just different patterns again, so different leaf shapes and different elements in there. Yeah, that's another lavender one. And yeah, so it's always quite fun making paper and incorporating different styles and elements and so on. Yeah, so I think that was most of the things. And then not this year but the year before, I made this. So this is for when you're planting things in the ground. It's called a Diber. So it's marked off so you know how deep you've gone in the ground. Anyway, so that was made on a thing called a pole lathe. So I have to check back. I didn't get much footage from working with the pole lathe, not least because by the time I was hoping to get a go on the woodworking section, the storms had hit already, so it got cancelled. And then the previous day when I was hoping to join that workshop, they were oversubscribed, so I said I'd do it the next day, but then the next day was all the big storms, and so they just had to pack everything away. So I didn't get a try it the second time, but I was going to have a go at making doorknobs the second time, but anyway, so, but yeah, I'm quite happy with my little Diber. I thought it turned out okay. I'm pleased with that. Yeah, so it really is just a very large, like, bendy branch, and they make like a wood pedal, sort of foot pedal with it, and then you just, by pedaling up and down, the branch whips up and down, and then that turns the lathe, and then as the lathe's turning, you get a chisel and make out your shapes, and it was really fun. So I do hope to get to try it again one day, but it wasn't possible this year. Fabulous, so we're almost there. And then the last thing I tried was getting a little bit on the arty side for me, but anyway. So this is what's known, so it's a little bit bendy because it got damaged a bit in the storm, but it's called a tunnel book. So the idea is that you tell a little bit of a story through the book. So you've got decreasing apertures cut through the work, and different layers and different elements in the book. And this is meant to be a bit of a woodland walk scene. So so people seem to like it, but I found it a little bit arty for me. I was like, not sure about this one. Anyway, so that's a little taster of some of the things that I've been doing when I do my crafting weeks. And yeah, some different ideas in there. And yeah, I think you've seen the giant willow flower as well, so that was also really fun to make. I might just pause and grab that. Back in a tick. Yeah, how could I forget the willow flower? Yeah, so so this was the willow flower that we made this year. So I've never really done much willow work before, certainly not for a long time. But the general idea, so this is obviously meant like a garden ornament, but the central part is the same technique that you would use as the base for, oops, I was trying to get away, as the base you would use for a willow basket. So it was really useful to learn that and really fun. So that was that, and then inspired by that, I've been collecting some willow locally, and with green willow, you are meant to let it dry out for a while, because then it shrinks a bit and then you get a nice tight weave. So this was already dried willow, and then just lightly soaked, just to make it easier to work with. But the fresh green willow, you can't do that, but you can make wreaths. So I have been making willow wreaths, which will be hopefully decorated for Christmas a bit nearer the time. So that's been quite fun, learning something new. And yeah, so I think that's everything for now. People who are not at all into crafty things, please feel free to skip through this. But yeah, so I know it's not for everyone, but I have found it quite fun and something different, and a new challenge, and really enjoyed trying out all these different traditional crafting techniques. So anyway, so I just thought I'd share that with you. As I say, we're probably going to develop this a little bit more going forward as a general sort of Sandra Makes feature as part of our weekly vlogs. So do let us know what you think below, and if you've got any thoughts about what you would like to see, please do comment below. I mean, clearly I can't do everything, but fairly versatile, so interesting to see what you might suggest, so feel free to comment away. Apologies for the loud noise in the background. Sounds like something's being demolished not too far from here. Things happen. Fabulous. All right, good to speak to you all. So it's now evening time. I'm just going to chat a little bit about some future ideas. So I've spoken about some previous crafting workshops that I've made things through, and some different ideas and themes and things that I've done in the past. And obviously we're here in our new location with lots of new exciting resources and natural things that we can start working with going forwards. So I just thought I'd show you a couple of those. So during the summer, we got quite a prolific couple of lavender bushes at the front of the house. So hand-picked and dried quite a lot of lavender. So there's a little bit in this jar, just as an example. It smells amazing. So I am planning, so I've got some nice pieces of fabric now, and I will be planning to make little lavender bags and do something with those. And then I mentioned a while ago, there's a lot of teasels in the area, so I don't yet have teasels in my garden, but there's lots in the local area. And when I found what I thought might be teasel, it turned out it's another spiky leaf plant, but a different plant. So I'm still on a mission to get some teasels to grow in our own garden. This is one that picked fairly locally. So there's sort of really pretty seed heads on these, and they can also be used in decorations, and you can paint them and do different things and include them in arrangements and things like that. So that's one thing. And I didn't realise when I picked it, it still has seeds in it as well, so I'm quite excited about that. So now I have some teasel seeds that I can plant and hopefully try and grow some next year. I can't remember if these are annual or biennial, so if they're biennial, they might just get leaves next year and flowers and spikes in a couple of years, but anyway, we'll see. And also found a really lovely collection of beautiful pine cones, which make rather fine Christmas tree decorations. So I've collected a few of those, and I'll be doing a little bit of work with those as well. So that's just a small example of some of the things that you can incorporate into crafting projects. So keep looking out, and obviously I'll be still looking out for more things that we can maybe use going forwards and different crafting ideas. Yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of one thing. And then obviously looking forward, if I do start making more things, I'll need to come up with a bit of a plan about how I might start selling some of these things and marketing them and this kind of thing. So I'm having some thoughts about that as well. But at the moment, just maybe starting to make some things. I think I might have another dabble at making little hats or something going forwards. But so with the whole move thing, it has been somehow still quite busy with this and that. So yeah. But anyway, winter's nearly on the way. Not quite, but anyway, we're still into autumn, so the grass will be growing slower for one, and we'll be a little bit more on top of the things that we needed to do to get the house up to scratch and so on. So hopefully the jobs will get a little bit less and there'll be a little bit more time for other things like the crafting. Really hope so. Anyway, but yeah, it's all quite exciting. All new adventures and everything. So right. Anyway, so I just wanted to slot that little extra piece in and talk a little bit about future plans as well as what I've done in the past. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Bye for now. That's the end of this one for now. And if you have enjoyed it and you haven't already subscribed, it's always really helpful for us. And if you've enjoyed it, give us a like, or just like and comment below. Whatever you feel like doing is absolutely fine. And look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care. Bye for now.